Hello, everybody. Today is August 7th, and recently we've heard some news about a lot of the stimulus packages going on, and that I guess Congress can't come to some sort of agreement again as usual. So hopefully over this weekend something will happen. But with that being said, I've seen a lot of people talk about hazard pay, and not really anyone who works for the government, but more people who are essential employees. And I have while I do see a lot of people who, well, they don't really seem happy for 10,000. They're just kind of like, "Oh, wow, this is great." But, that being said, I'm a little upset. And the reason why is because again, as I've been saying in my previous videos, it's just I don't believe the $10,000 in hazard pay is even enough. And with that being said, after watching all these other YouTubers who been doing a great job, thank you for speaking up about the hazard pay. We need to keep doing this, guys. I really appreciate it. It means so much to me that you guys are really taking time out of your day to, advocate for hazard pay and educate the people about this. But the problem, there's still a big problem in America, and that the unemployment rate is increasing around 1.5 million every week, which is terrible. And people are getting called back to work. Even some family that I know have been called back to work, but because they work for the government or the Fed or something, so that they don't have to go back to work. They just call back to work, but they have the option not to go back. So what are they doing? They're not going back to work. Why? Because they make more by staying at home, and they have all this free time to do whatever they want to do. They can work on themselves, better their education, focus on skills that transition into the future, and do all these things that you just can't do when you're working 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day towards something that you don't even particularly care about. Think about it like this, right? When you work a job, right, you're working 40 hours a week, okay, 8 hours a day. Okay, and those of you who are essential employees are working, probably more than 40 hours and working harder than ever. But the problem is that, you only have 24 hours in one day, okay? And, your 8 hours of it, one third of it is gone towards something that you maybe particularly just don't care about. And then the other 8 hours is for you to try to sleep. And then, the other 8 hours that you have remaining left, if you're lucky, you use some of that time to get ready. You use some of that time to prepare for the 8 hours of work. You use some of that time to do other things that you have to do that are important, like your upkeep, your chores, things, your obligations around you, and so that leaves little to no time to yourself. See, what people don't get is that the unemployment benefits are so amazing. You just have to think about it like this: if you can make triple your income while being on unemployment, while having all this free time to do whatever you want to do, that is amazing. Time is money, and you'll have more free time than ever while being on unemployment, while making more money and not risking yourself or exposing yourself to this virus going on. And that's what people don't seem to acknowledge: the time. Because when you have to get ready for work, right, as Peter Schiff says, or anyone can figure this out, when you have to when you go to work, right, you dedicate, so you don't just dedicate 8 hours of clocking into work, no matter what you do. Some of you even work more than that, but you have to get ready for work. You have to prepare your meals. You have to commute to work. You have to hype yourself up to get ready for work. You have to like do all these things to prepare yourself, for work. But now all these people on unemployment are pretty much getting a paid vacation, do whatever they want. And that's the problem though. This hazard pay isn't enough. And you guys need to speak up about it because it's not enough. Because think about it like this. I've done the previous breakdown of my videos before, but if you were to get to 10,000 in hazard pay retroactively paid since January 27th, $13 an hour, which caps at 10,000, might I add, it already would have capped by late May and early June. Okay, if you've been working 40 hours a week. But let's be real, a lot of you guys have been working full time. So, I mean, more than full time, overtime, because your employer can't find anybody to go back to work. So you've been working all this time, and it's probably even capped out sooner than May. So that means from May all the way till August, and then moving forward, you haven't received any hazard pay. The problem is that people on unemployment have all this free time while making triple your income. So what would you have done with all that free time, would you have gone back to school? Would you have focused on a skill? Would you have spent time with your family? Would you have educated yourself on things that are going to help you, increase your earning potential? Would you have spent time tending to things that you probably just didn't have the time to do? Time is money. A lot of people work because they want to buy their freedom eventually. These rich millionaires and billionaires, right? They have all the free time in the world to do whatever they want. Well, not all of them. They have to work, but they leverage their time, which means that while they have, maybe they have to, like, let's just use an example. To run a certain business, you have to, use 8,000 manpower hours per week. Well, they leverage their hours by hiring other people to do their work for them, and then they profit off that. Well, people pay big, big, big sums of their money or their life to buy their freedom, right? And now people are making more than ever with more free time than ever and not risking their health. And even if you got the unemployment of 10,000, you'd still make less or finally the same. That's terrible because you're not considering the health risks of working during this pandemic, and you're not considering factoring in all the free time that you had, dude. Oh my god. This is the worst part because you know, in my close circle, okay? And not even just my close circle, but acquaintances and friends and family, these people who have been on unemployment benefits, they don't care about essential employees. They're having the time of their life. And they're just like, they kind of undermine essential employees. If you bring it up, essential employees to them, they don't care. They don't even advocate for hazard pay. A lot of them are going on vacation. A lot of them are breaking quarantine rules. A lot of them are traveling from different states. A lot of them are going to like Hawaii, for example, and just having a good time, not following the 14-day quarantine rule. They're traveling to different countries, different states. Well, not different countries, but different states, and they're living it up. So basically, there's no ifs and ands about it. You've had people on unemployment have had a paid vacation to triple their income while being on a vacation, doing whatever they want. Whether for good or bad, they're doing whatever they want and they're not exposing themselves. So you guys need to speak up about this $10,000 not being enough. The problem is that, the beginning of the shutdown is that the essential employees didn't unionize, and that's the real problem. If the essential employees all had unionized and used their worth to advocate for hazard pay or protest for hazard pay or riot for hazard pay, we would have had hazard pay. But the problem is that even till now, all the essential employees aren't unionizing and saying, hey, there's a big issue. People on unemployment I see are relaxing at the beach, having a barbecue, having a pool party. The worst part of their day is that they're hungover from last night's party, and we're not receiving hazard pay. They're still making more money. What's the point of working if you make less than those on unemployment? That doesn't make sense. There's no reason to work if you can make more on unemployment. It wouldn't be financially responsible for essential employees who make minimum wage as a grocery clerk to go to work. It doesn't make people who are on unemployment to go back to work if they're making more money and have more free time than ever. And also, no one wants to go back because, again, they don't want to risk their health. So that's the problem. Like, the hazard pay just isn't enough. 10,000 isn't enough. If people do the math, they will realize that 10,000 isn't enough. I'm so tired of making these videos because it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. I talk to people and I break it down and they finally get it and they're like, oh, wow, we're getting screwed over. And I have to explain it over and over again to people on an individual basis. And some of you guys are okay with this, and it's just until I finally show you the difference between the time you could have had. And I asked, like, for example, yesterday I went up to my friend and I was saying like, hey, like, how do you feel about hazard pay? And she said, like, it's probably never gonna happen. And she was defeated. Like, she felt defeated. She hated going to work because she knew that, people around her roommates are just making money off unemployment while she's working every day. So I said, hey, we might get 10,000 in hazard pay. And she was pretty excited. She was like, oh, wow, really? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know for sure. And then I told her, like, well, she was still pretty excited. And I said, well, like, if you actually did the math, you would still make less or finally the same as those on unemployment. And then she was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. There you go. See, because once people catch on that 10,000 is a terrible compensation for those on unemployment, well then no one's gonna want to go back to work. So you guys got to start. You guys have to start speaking up about the problem. I know you guys are speaking about hazard pay, but $1 extra an hour is nothing. $2 an hour is nothing. You guys need to understand that if you do the breakdown with the numbers, if you do the math, the hazard pay compensation of just one, two, $13 an hour that caps at 10,000 isn't enough. Even if it was capped at $25,000, that's still not enough in my opinion, because you're not the problem is that you're still not considering the amount of free time that you had being on unemployment. Time is money, and people on unemployment have been making triple your income and have more time to do whatever they want. You know, Again, as I've said earlier, I have a family member who doesn't want to go back to work because, well, she makes more at home, and also, she's called back, she doesn't have to go back to work. It's not mandatory, and she's done a lot of great things like start her own business, make dog collars, do all these other great things, study accounting, and all these great things. So, like, it's really hard showing up to work every day, knowing that everyone else around you who's not employed and making more off unemployment having a much better time than you, and it sucks. It really sucks. I hate showing up to work. You know, Most people don't even like to work to begin with, and you know what? It sucks. I don't know how the government's going to fix this, but if we have enough money to bail out failing companies, we should have enough money to reward the essential employees who provided goods and services in a time of need and risked their lives. You know, I've been really tired of making these videos because it's just so stressful to think about these problems. But we got to start speaking up. Please speak up. Do the math, and figure out that if you consider three big factors to calculating a reasonable hazard pay, you have to think about the differences you could have made on on unemployment, and you're making three times more on unemployment on average. You also have to consider things like the amount of free time that you had on unemployment and what you could have done with that, because time is money. And the third thing you need to consider is that you're risking your health and working as an essential employee. So you guys need to consider all these three things and then come up with some kind of hazard pay, because 10,000 is not enough. It's just a pat on the shoulder. And again, if you do the math, you'll realize that you make more on unemployment. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a good day. I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. I'm trying not to make videos because I'm just so pissed. Okay.